Good evening, Top fans. Bill from Top Fan Rivalry here tonight to discuss the finale of the League Championship Series, as well as what the Fall Classic looks like. And we've got two of our friends in with us. We got Dave Schaefer and our White Sox guy here to talk about the series, and Ned Westfall, who's a Braves fan, who I'm sure has a lot to say about the series and what it looked like. So. Boys, we're just going to have some fun tonight, just kind of talking it through and see where we get. We appreciate everybody jumping on. We may have one or two other top fans that jump on tonight, so it'll be a good time. First and foremost, let's go through the League Championship Series. And Dave, I'm going to let you jump it off since you really had no skin in this game. Where obviously Ned's a Braves fan, I'm a Dodger fan. I'm sure there's plenty to talk about, but why don't you tell us what you thought from your aspect of not having skin in either side of it?
Sure. I saw pieces of every game. I saw the most of the last few games. Actually watched the Dodgers and Braves last night from 40,000 feet flying home from Seattle. None of us could believe that either one of these series went 7 the way they started. The Rays up 3-0. I'm not sure how they let Houston back in that series, but it shows whether you like the way they do business or not. It shows the heart of that team and the way they came back and the way they fought. The Rays, I think it showed some of their immaturity and not knowing how to close the series. Charlie Morton came up huge there at the end. Really fun to watch the Rays. I think we've all seen enough of the Astros, and I think we're all kind of done with that chapter, and Dusty Baker gets to be left at the altar again.
Yeah, agreed. What I couldn't agree with you more. I like Dusty. Obviously, I didn't like him so much when he was in San Francisco, but man, he's a good manager. But I'm happy to see those guys in the rearview mirror. Nobody's an Astros fan after what they went through, and I got to tell you, this COVID no fans thing really helped the Astros out, because can you imagine if the Astros had to go to Dodger Stadium to play like they did with fans in the stands this year? I don't know.
Yeah,
Those
it would have
guys
been
get out alive.
well, and no matter where they went on the road, they were going to get that, but probably nowhere worse than LA. But if they would have had to play the Yankees, it would have been pretty ugly too.
Yeah, that's true. And they don't. I don't think they have a hall pass yet. I think 2021, they're going to hear it from some people.
Oh
So
yeah, it's not over. But on the other side, I mean, again, the Braves showing the youth, and they got out to a pretty decent lead too. And I thought the Dodgers were done. And I almost texted you saying, "What are you going to do now? You're done." And I didn't, thank God. But guys like Bellinger and Kike Hernandez and the others coming up huge in huge moments. I don't know how you win that series without a big contribution from Kershaw, and you did it. So I really thought Kershaw was going to be the driving force on the pitching side, and you did it without him, which I'm still not sure how that happens.
it's a guy that throws 100 miles an hour named Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
I mean it's funny that you say that, because on Thursday night, true story, Ned, I came home and I was watching the game, and as I was watching the game, the once the game was over and the Braves scored all those runs, I'm like, this is over. I looked at my wife and I said, well, the season ends tomorrow. I mean, I'll watch it, but the season's going to end tomorrow. And then we were doing a bunch of stuff and everything, and lo and behold, the Dodgers win that night. And so I told her on Saturday, I said, I don't have Saturdays. I mean, but somehow or another, they just pulled it out. But Ned, tell me what you saw in the American League and the National League.
Well, I'll start with the American League, and we'll get into the juicy details with the Dodgers in a second. But Tampa Bay is the kind of team, and listening to the analysts that get paid, they're the ones that bring up the fact that this team is built on their farm system, and but if you look at the balance of the team, that they actually acquired a lot of guys this year from different organizations. They got Margot and Renfro from San Diego. They were able to get Zunino from Seattle. So their GM is, played a big role in that. But ironically enough, the GM of the LA Dodgers, Andrew Friedman, was the pretty much is what started the set the building blocks for their farm system. And how ironic is that
Yep.
Friedman's team now is playing Tampa Bay in the World Series. But it's funny how that works in sports, and especially in this game. It's kind of like my business in the restaurant business. You kind of know people, and you go work for another organization. You kind of know how they're going to do and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of very, very similar in the fact that you've got your loyalties lie with certain people, and people will leave one company to go work for the next. And with the Dodgers, it's Friedman's done a great job as far as building that team as well. And this year with the Dodgers, it was seemed to be more of a team effort this year. It wasn't really just one guy. I mean, Seager had a great series. He hit the daylights out of the ball, but it was really one guy, one different player every game that really pulled through a great team effort. I like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay plays a great team effort. With Houston, it's really just the two guys. It's usually Correa and Altuve, or Springer in the playoffs, and everybody else. But probably I think the problem with Houston this year was they lost Verlander, so they lost a good starting pitcher, and I think they were actually lucky even win 3 games. And I think Dave, you mentioned it about the youth of Tampa Bay. I mean, I think they kind of were riding it a little too high there in games 4 and 5, and they were like, okay, well, we got to do something. And luckily they pulled it out. I mean, they had the right guy going in Game 7, Charlie Morton. And how ironic is that? The team that he won the World Series with, he ends up beating. So that's what you love about this game is the ironies that are there and everything else. So the ALCS, I caught bits and pieces of it, but I think last week when we were sitting here, I think everyone on the that was participating said, yeah, Tampa looks strong. They've been strong all year, and they're kind of the little kid on the block, that comes to the game and like ends up being the strongest player, right?
Yeah.
On the flip side, in the NLCS, the Dodgers, even when it was up 3-1, Bill, I was actually the opposite. I'm like, oh, this may be not enough. If it was a 5-game series, but the Dodgers had to win 3, and it was, I think what you can do, in retrospect, hindsight's always 20/20, but I think you got to be proud of, I think what we had said last week was we just want a good series, and I think that's what we got. And I think the Braves showed their resiliency, though, and they're not going away. I think they built a good young core with Albies and with Acuna and obviously Freddie Freeman. But you got to remember, the Braves didn't have their top starting pitcher this year. He was gone in the beginning of August with an Achilles tendon. He tore his Achilles tendon. So how different would the series would have looked if Soroka was at the top of that rotation, But it provide another opportunity for all these young kids to come out and really show what they got. So I'm happy for the Dodgers, honestly. But this is they got to win it this year, because if they don't, then I think, Bill, you as a fan, you got to start saying, you'd be like me, Braves fan of the '90s, going,
Yeah,
what the heck?
exactly.
You get to the dance, but you can't finish it, or what?
Can't finish it. I have to tell you, boys, if the Dodgers season would have ended on Friday, I would have been frustrated because they would have underperformed to the nth degree. But last night, though being, a Dodger fan, just like you're a Braves fan, last night I thought, this is such a good game. This is exactly what we wanted. We wanted a good series. And I was getting text messages from people on Thursday night saying, okay, it's going to be the Rays and Braves. Nobody thought it. And the Braves or the Rays let Houston back in, just like Dave said. And I have to tell you, remember when you sent me that text message during Game 1, Ned, and you said Dodgers look nervous?
Yeah.
The flip side to that was last night. The Braves looked nerve. Even when they scored that first run in the first inning last night, they still looked like they had their backs up against the wall, and they weren't. The only guy that looked like he was really having fun was Freddie Freeman, joking around with guys on first base and just things like that. And um, I have to tell you, let's talk, because all three of us are old enough to understand the fundamentals here. We don't have any of the young guys on. My gosh, let's talk base running. That was that. I mean, and the basics, just laying down a bunt. I mean, how many times did we see the shift in both series that all you got to do is lay down a bunt and just run your lights out, right? Run the day out as the day is long. And so let's talk about the basics for a second. I mean, the shift's one thing, but how about the base running last night?
Well, I mean, when I was watching it live, I actually couldn't believe what I was watching. It's not so much that Dansby Swanson got thrown out at the plate, but the other thing was, what was Austin Riley doing? When you get caught in a pickle like that, you're even taught from Little League, go run to the base that the other guy had occupied, because one of you guys is going to be out if you're both there, but that base is still occupied, right? But they probably don't stress us enough in spring training about base running and situations and all that. And I think it's because the game now is built around the 3-run homer. Mm-hmm. Or that's the sexy play, is that's and the strikeout. Just it was funny because I think John Smoltz said something in the broadcast about Max Muncy, something about a homer, strikeout, or a walk. That's pretty much all he does, and he's going to do one of those three things here. He said that in one of his at bats, and that's exactly right. There were situations too that the Dodgers had as well last night that you would look at it going, okay, they're the home team, they got a runner on first. Why aren't you getting this guy over to the next base? Yep. And I just think that the fundamentals aren't taught enough to really stress it enough about how important it just gets magnified in a game like this. That's really what it all comes down to.
Absolutely. Dave, you're in the thick of it right now with having a kid that's playing. But I mean, what were you thinking when you were watching some of those basic fundamentals get missed on both sides, right? I mean, you had the Dodgers had first and second, I think twice with less than 2 outs. They're not moving base runners over. Did you see the play in the second inning that we're talking about the base running blunder? Yeah. So talk to me about the fundamentals.
Well, I that kind of stuff drives me crazy, even at like 13U, 14U, 15U. Mm-hmm. I mean, I mentioned this on the last call. There should be a stat for how many guys, runners in scoring position with less than 2 outs, what's your conversion rate? Mm-hmm. And that should be a stat for every team. I think the Rays are a more fundamentally sound team than any of the teams that were in this Final Four. They're the ones, Kevin Cash, the way he manages, he has to rely on that a lot more. He's not going to get, the big boppers throughout his lineup to bail him out with big home runs. But it's definitely true what Ned said about, the game's built around the big home run. And, it's kind of like the NBA built around the 3-pointer, and all of the fundamentals go away. And it's frustrating. It drives me crazy. We just watched 2 days of the University of Washington baseball team. We watched practice Saturday. We watched a scrimmage yesterday. And the entire practice on Saturday was PFPs, pitcher fielding practice, and base running and bunting. They had 2 bunt stations going, and they were moving runners and making sure they got good jumps. It was an hour. And that's not happening at the next level. Yeah. But I think everything also comes full circle. And I think, just like the home run is king now, I think, somebody's going to put together a Tony La Russa style San Diego or St. Louis Cardinals team, and they're going to beat your brains in with bunts and sacrifices and singles and beating the shift. It's ripe for the taking.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I remember, I want to say it was in game 4. And I think it was when the Dodgers were still in that game. It may have been 2-2 or 2-1 or something like that. Something similar happened. Mookie was on third. Justin Turner was on second. And ground ball to the second baseman, to Albies, and Mookie went in. And he realized as soon as he went halfway, I messed up. And what do we watch him do? He waves Turner over to third and then just stops and let himself get tagged out. So now you got runners on first and third, which is the fundamental way of what should have happened last night.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to tell you, when I was watching that play, I was more frustrated. I was happy because of what happened for the Dodgers, but I was more frustrated because the fundamentals are getting missed. And these are what these kids are seeing, that you have to hit the big bomb. And I mean, I was equally frustrated last night as a Dodger fan with Cody Bellinger's bat flip. Don't show up a pitcher like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. Listen, you're in a pressure situation. You
Yeah,
just
it's a
did
big
something that,
moment.
what's that?
It's a big moment.
It's a big moment, but we dream about it in our backyards and everything like that. But you don't show up the other guy. And I don't know if you saw Travis, the catcher, in the background, but he just hung his head. As soon as he saw that ball connect, he just kind of went down like this, and he knew it.
Yeah.
But we're
Well,
missing
and
that stuff.
that's when you tip your cap. I mean, if somebody beats you fair and square, you tip your cap. I don't have a big problem with the bat flips and stuff. I think people, no, these guys need to show their personality on television. Baseball's at a place where they need to draw fans, not push them away. I don't have a big issue with that. But the fundamentals. We talk about it all the time on the club baseball about baseball IQ and how few of these kids really have it and can think on their feet on the base pass or on defense and know what's going on before it happens. It's
Yeah,
really a rare commodity. Normally, they're chasing the radar gun or they're chasing a big fly over the fence, and that's how they measure their success. It's tough because
yeah.
it's counterproductive.
Well, and just being sports fans overall, fellas. I mean, Wayne Gretzky behind the net, right? He'd be able to see everything, envision it, and make it happen. Michael Jordan, the court was truly his playground, right? And you got to have that IQ. And I saw it a little bit in the Astros and the Houston Tampa Bay series where Houston had been there before and they were kind of showing their baseball IQ. But I agree with Ned. It's either Springer and Altuve or Altuve and Correa. It, the only guy that you really ever saw step up outside of that was that Kyle Tucker kid. And that kid's
Yeah,
got a sweet swing too. He bats number 8 or 9 down there. He's got,
Phoenix kid.
I do not like that guy. That guy's a Dodger killer, but he's got a great, just fundamental swing. And even Smoltz was talking about this last night. Ned, you may have heard it, but he was talking about how Corey Seager is so locked in and his body doesn't move, sway in pitches, yet Cody's is all over the place. He's swaying all over. His helmet's flying off during the at bat, and so it's just not fundamental anymore. And we're missing that.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
miss it. I got to tell you, I miss it.
Mhm.
I mean, I love the 3-1 home run, but Will Smith did it last night. Second and third, 1 out. They put the shift on, and he hits the ball through the right side of the infield. Dodgers score 2. Fundamental
Yeah, and
baseball.
the issue is, for ratings and for television, that stuff doesn't sell unless you're talking about guys like us that follow the game and appreciate the game within the game. Everyone
Yeah.
else looks at it and says, you know what, I want an 80-yard TD pass and I want, dancing in the end zone. That's what they
I,
want.
I want Dion style dancing in the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, well, we talk fundamentals. We've got a series coming up. So let's spend some time. Give me your breakdown of who do you think is going to win, and then give me your breakdown of why you think. And this isn't one of those big poppy things we're going to put it in an envelope. We're going to hide it for next week. So Ned, I'll let you start with that. Who do you think is going to win, and why do you think? We know who's favored. We know who, but why do you think that person's going to win or that team's going to win?
Well, I think it comes down to experience, and the Dodgers definitely have that, and that was carried over from the last series in the NLCS. It was carried over from the San Diego series. We saw the experience, and so the Dodgers probably will lose a couple games, but I think this is the year the Dodgers really kind of break that 32-year curse that they have, right? If they don't, then I guess there's a lot of questions that need to be answered at the front office and with the field management and everything else. But the Dodgers, in this game too, it's about experience. And the amount of experience that the Braves achieved during this whole postseason run, I think if 2021, if they get there, it's gonna, they're gonna be tough because they learned from their mistake last year, right, against St. Louis, but with the Dodgers, I think it's just about experience, and they've got key starting pitching. However, I don't agree with Kershaw being the game one starter going only on 3 days rest. I think that there could have been 3 days rest. Yeah, because he pitched Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Yeah, he's going on 3 days rest.
He pitched Thursday.
So that could be. Was that Thursday?
Yeah, he pitched game 4.
No, that was Friday. Yeah, that was Friday.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. 3 days rest is tough.
You're right. Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. Sorry, I got my days all mixed up. They all blended together because there was no days off because we couldn't figure it out. But I think the days of rest too will actually help the Dodgers though too as well. And just because they've been there before, but I think Tampa Bay will give them a good run. Tampa Bay doesn't have these household names. But Tampa Bay is going to give them a fight. It's pretty balanced, but I think the Dodgers have the slight edge on because of the experience.
Dave, what do you think?
Well, it's really interesting. You got Mookie Betts, who's an AL East guy. He knows the Rays really, really well. I think there's a little sub-story there. I think not that he can be an X factor as good as he is, but there's something to that I'd watch. Normally in these series, I go with pitching and management. And, I think Kevin Cash at this point is a better manager than Roberts. Whether he has the talent to do what he needs to do, I don't know. But I would watch that as well. I've been riding the Rays this whole playoff, and I'm going to ride them again. They definitely don't have the household names the Dodgers have, but I'll tell you what, at this point, I would be surprised if they're scared of anybody. They've already taken out how many top seeds? They beat the Yankees. How many more big names do they need to take out? I don't think they're scared at all. So those are the things I'd watch. I think it's going to be a great series. It's at least a 6-game series. And pitching and managerial decisions will be the decision maker. That'll ride. It's what it's riding on.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think it's the Dodgers to lose, which is a good and a bad thing because it puts the pressure on that team. I don't know if you would have asked any of the sports writers or analysts if you said at the end of the season, hey, the Rays are going to be in the Fall Classic. Most people would have probably said, yeah, not this year. Who are these guys? It's kind of like the movie Major League when they're looking at this guy's lineup and they're going, who are these guys? It's kind of like that, but they've had big bats in the right time and their pitching has been awesome. I think the Dodgers come in with a lot more stress. The only fundamental thing that the Dodgers have in their favor, which sounds like nothing, but it could be something, just ask Mookie Betts in right field, is the fact that the Dodgers have played there now, a couple of weeks, right?
Yep.
And the Rays have never played in that ballpark. That ballpark's new this year. And so the Rays have never played in that ballpark. They're not used to the dimensions. They're not used to the wind factor. Pitching, I think we match up, square to square there. But I'm going to go with John Smoltz on this one. John Smoltz said something last night, and he was pro-Rays or pro-Braves all the way through. There were times when I'm thinking, Johnny, you're getting paid to be like on national TV. Stop being such. We get it. You're a Hall of Famer with the Braves. We get it. But he said last night, the Braves have a 1-5 knockout punch. The Dodgers have a 1-9. And as long as Dave Roberts doesn't get in his own head, and as long as he doesn't get too much pressure on himself, I think advantage Dodgers. But I will say something about, and again, hats off to Braves management, hats off to the Braves in all fairness to them. But I do think the Braves, the Cincinnati Reds, the Dodgers, and the Padres on the National League side, and the White Sox, and in some cases the Angels, and even the Yankees. They're younger clubs, and the Rays, they're younger clubs, and they're going to be around for a lot longer period of time. I think you're starting to see the end of the dynasty for some older clubs like the Cardinals, maybe even like the Cubs, where you've got older players that have been around for a while and they're not necessarily adding fresh blood. So, um, you know, the entire series, Ned, you were ringing in my ears saying, this club's like the 95 club. They're young, they're scrappy. And I'm watching this and going, oh my gosh, they are. We're down 3-1. We are not gonna, we're going home. Ned's right. What's going on? And I'm thinking of Mookie Betts signing. I'm thinking of all these players that are household names. But I think there's a bright future for a lot of, just like in hockey, when they changed some of the rules on the offsides and the game became faster, I think MLB is starting to become younger, and the younger teams are going to do a lot more damage. You need to integrate some of the Freddie Freemans of a team, or a Manny Machado in a team, or even in the White Sox, Jose Abreu, right? You need to have those type of guys in your team, but the youth is where it's going to be at. So, all right, boys, 30 seconds to wrap it up. What do you want to say in your last 30 seconds before the Fall Classic starts? Ned, what do you have to say?
Well, I mean, like I said last series, let's just, as a baseball fan and a sports fan, you just want a good series. You want to make sure it's competitive, and sometimes always the best team doesn't win, but you always hope that it's competitive, and it's something that you remember for a long time.
Absolutely. Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, hopefully there's a few moments here that we look at, and they're like those epic moments that end up being instant classics. The last thing we need is, a 4-0 sweep by anybody. I don't think we'll see that, but, the pressure's on the Dodgers, like you said. The pressure's on. The Rays have zero pressure. They're going to be loose and ready to take down another giant. So we'll see what happens.
And my cardiologist wants it to go 4-0 Dodgers, and us be up 11 runs after the first inning. After last night, I'm pacing around the house, and my wife comes home after watching a sunset, and she knocks on the door because she forgot her key. And I said, if you're going to come in, you need to be here, be quiet. Don't need to say anything. And of course, that was Husband of the Year award, right? Oh,
nice job.
But I thank you very much. But I just hope that it's a good series. I hope the Dodgers, I think this year, their pressure's on them, but I just want it to be a good series as well. So we will be back next Monday to talk about the Fall Classic and to see where we're at. We should be through Game 5 if we need a Game 5. Like I said, my cardiologist would love it to not be so, but I think this is going to go 6 or 7. So we'll be back on Monday, and you fellas are welcome to join us. And then for you top fans that are watching this, in the off season, we're going to be talking about a number of different things that are happening. There's some things that are happening in both central divisions. There's some things that are happening in the National League West, some things that are happening in the National League East. We'll talk about all that stuff in YouTube fashion. Please, by all means, go on and subscribe to the YouTube page. Go on and also subscribe to the topfanrivalry.com page. There's a new article up there about the Dodgers and the end of the season, where we reference Dave and his articles with the White Sox. And Ned, I'm sure we'll have some articles for us this year with the Braves coming up. But thanks for joining us, fellas. Thanks for the time. It's been great. And we'll look forward to doing it again next week.